Good afternoon, GIS. How are you doing? I hope you guys had a good weekend. Mine was pretty great. Such great weather, and today it's nice weather too. But here we are, stuck inside doing GIS. It's not so bad. Okay, guys. So let's see. Let's recap. Last week we were doing some work with a data set regarding national parks and national forests. And we were utilizing this data to, the question we wanted to ask, the second question we want to ask. So we focused in on the national forest data set. And what was it? It was a bunch of polygons. It was this. Looked like this. Pink area, national forest. And so we were looking at that, and then what we wanted to do was we wanted to say, well, what's the total area of the national forests within each state? And to answer that question, we applied a tool called Summarize Within. Summarize Within. And so we used the polygons representing the states as a target for this Summarize Within, and we put the results. One of the results of this Summarize Within was the area in square miles of the national forest in each of the states, and we put that result into a new column in our attribute table that's in our output feature class. So let's take a closer look at the results of this Summarize Within. And then let's do some more analysis with this data. And it would be interesting, I think it would be interesting, to calculate what fraction of a state's total land area is national forests, publicly owned land that is national forests. Of course, this isn't all the publicly owned land. There's other areas of publicly owned land, but this is just one class of publicly owned land. Okay, so I think it'll be interesting to take a look at that in map form. So we'll do that. Okay, then when we're done with this, we're going to move on to some material that you find in Chapter 4 of the textbook. And that's where you should be reading right now and working through the activities in Chapter 4. And so we'll get started on that today. And the theme of Chapter 4 is creating and editing geodatabases, and this includes editing features that are on your map, changing them or adding to them. This becomes a very powerful tool, because then what you see is that not only will the GIS allow us to visualize and work with existing data sets, but you can make your own data sets and you can add to existing data sets. All right, so that's what we're doing today. You got any questions, put them in the comments, and I will try to take a look every once in a while and see if there's any questions in there. All right, so let's go over to ArcGIS Pro, and so here we are. Should be able to see that pretty well. And so this is pretty much the state we left it in last time we met, how we left this map. And so let's get rid of some of these layers we don't need anymore. We'll get rid of that. Get rid of this. Just remove those layers. And we'll get rid of this. Okay, so I renamed one of the layers National Forest, and that's symbolized with the sort of pinkish purple polygons. And then the other layer is the states. And this layer, the states, was the output of our spatial join. Sorry, our Summarize Within analysis. And so if you go over here to open the attribute table and go all the way to the right, there's these two columns, summarized area in square miles and sum area square miles. And you look at these numbers, and these two columns, they're almost the same, but not quite. Okay, so what's happening here is the sum area square miles. This is the result of the summarize within that we did, and what it does is it takes each of these polygons for each national forest and figures out, well, what fraction of that polygon is in state A versus what fractions in state B, and it uses those fractions to partition the area of the national forest into those two state groups, those two states. And so this column is calculated based on existing data in the attribute table for the national forest data set that we had. Okay, so what's different over here? Well, what this does is there was an additional feature for summarize within. Here, I'll show you again. There was an option, a little box you could, it's trying to open. There's a little box you could open or check. Down here, add shape summary attribute. And what that does is it actually on the fly calculates the area of the geometries associated with each national park. So it's not relying on data that's already in its attribute table, it's calculating it as it goes, the area of each national park, and it uses those areas as a basis for this calculation. So I got a question for you, all right? So if you have any, put something in the comments if you have any idea about this. But why might, in theory, these two columns should have the same number in them. They're calculating the area of each national park within each state in two different ways. One is using pre-calculated areas that was in the attribute table for the national forest, and the other is by calculating those areas on the fly from the geometries that you have for the features, in this case the national forest. So why might they be different? Why might they be different? They're pretty close together. Here's one that's, well, nope, they're the only ones that are the same is where there's zeros. What do you think? What do you guys think? Did you guys hear my big news? Well, let me rephrase that. Big news that pertains to me. Anybody hear it? Why might those two columns give you different areas? Does anybody have any idea that might explain this difference? All right, well, let me show you. Let me show you something that might make this clearer. So the difference boils down to, so the polygons that you see, if I zoom in here, let's zoom into Missouri here. The polygons you see, Mark Twain National Forest, that's pretty awesome. I'd like to go there someday. The polygons you see for Mark Twain National Forest have limited fidelity. They're probably pretty accurate, but they're not perfectly accurate. So when ArcGIS calculates the area of Mark Twain National Forest from the polygons, it's not surprising that it would get a slightly different number than what was actually in the attribute table for the area of Mark Twain. Yeah, let's select it. What am I doing here? There we go. I select Mark Twain. So here's the area in square miles of that polygon, and it wouldn't be surprising if that value is a little bit different then the value you would get in see if we can find Missouri. So that number, this number is 4,799 is contributing to this number right here. All right, and it's but it's a little bit different because the boundaries aren't perfect, and I don't think we'll see that here in Missouri. Let's go up here. Actually, I think up here in the here we go. Let's take a look at what's national forest is this. This is Superior National Forest. So I bet if we zoom in on this boundary here, we'll see imperfections. There we go. So you see some of this national forest boundary is outside of the boundary for that state. And it's those little differences that cause the numbers in our analysis to be a little bit different. All right, but they're pretty close together. So let's calculate the as a fraction how much of each state is national forest, and so we can add a calculated column to our attribute table and make that calculated column the ratio of the area of the national forests over the area of the state. So let's do that. All right, attribute table, and so much stuff here that we're not using. Okay, so there's a column for square miles. So for each state, we have a record of how many square miles are in that state, and then we have a record over here from our summarize within for how many square miles of national forest there are in that state. So if we take the ratio of those two numbers and put it in a new column, we'll have what we're looking for here. So I'll add a column, and we'll call this fraction of forests. Fraction of forests, and this is, let's see, it's a neat compact way we can state this. Ratio or fraction of land area, that is national forest, fraction of land area area of national forests. It's so hard to say compactly. Ratio of national forest land to total land area. Okay, that was ridiculously long. And we'll make it a double precision floating point number, and we'll make it numerical with, I don't know, a couple decimal places. 3 is probably enough. Okay, and save. All right. And so now we should have a column here, ratio of national forest land to total land area, which is just a bunch of empty null spots. But if we right click on that heading and do calculate field, and what we're going to do, let's make this a little bigger, this is going to be equal the column that this one, it's labeled SQMI for square miles, It's that column divided by the column that gives us the total square miles of the national forest. And we'll hit apply. Okay. So we're getting some null results here, and that is because those states have no national forests. Let's do that again. I did it backwards. I wonder if anyone picked up on that. So I want the ratio of parkland, national forest land to total land area. Okay. That's better. So I'm getting a fractional number here. It's a number between 0 and 1. So 0 means there's no national forest in that state. 1 means the whole state is national forest. And that's probably not likely. But now we could use this data. Look at this state. 40% of it is national forest. I bet that's Idaho. It is. It's Idaho. Okay. So, ratio of national forest land to total land area. Okay. Let's do a little bit of symbology to make our map a little nicer. Okay. So let's do, I don't know, I don't like this base map. It's too distracting. Let's use this like gray base map. Turn off the references. The state polygons, let's do national forest first. So national forest, purple's not a good color. We need like national park green. There, something like that. And that's too green. Let's try sage. Okay. There should be a color that's called national park green. Ooh, lotus pond. Moss green. Yeah, now we're talking. That's a good color for national forests. Yeah, alright. Okay, and let's make the outline color a little different so that we can see. Yeah, let's try gray again. I want to see the boundaries between our national parks. Can't really see that. We'll leave it at moss green for now. So you'll notice another thing I did here was, and we didn't do this last week, but let's talk about what I did. Clear my selection. So one thing I did here is I turned on the labels for the national forest. Go to labeling properties. What I wanted the label to be was the forest name. So let me delete this. So let's say you want the label to be one of your attributes. So you find, here it is, forest name. You just double click on it and it appears right here, and click apply. You can change things like the font, maybe make it just a little bit bigger. Okay, and one thing I did was I put a scale of 1 to 5 million in this labeling tab under feature layer. I put 1 to 5 million in the tab for out beyond. So what this does is it turns the labels off if you're out beyond that scale. So if you're at a smaller scale than that, which at this point we are. Right now the scale is 1 to 1 million. But if I zoom in, when I pass that 1 to 5 million scale, almost there, I'm 1 to 5.6 million, see down here, the labels will turn on. And so now you can see the labels for the national forest. All right, so what about the symbology for the states? Well, let's do something like, let's, instead of a single symbol, let's do, graduated colors. And we'll do something like, oh, how about black to white? Don't like that because our background's gray. Let's try, I don't know, I like this one. And let's flip it around. So right here you see if I want to, well, I want the, I don't want to show population. Let's turn on the right feature here. I want to visualize the ratio of national forest land. So we don't have to flip it around. But let's turn this to defined intervals or equal intervals. Try that. And no, uniform intervals. That's what I want. I don't know. None of this is really doing it for me. But quartile? Nah, that's not good enough. It's not showing. We'll do equal intervals. And so I could change the labels and stuff, but this is pretty good. So what you can see here is clearly try a slightly different color. Clearly, the states out here in the west are have the most national forests as a fraction of total land area. So you can see that qualitatively, and then quantitatively the color coding tells you that as well. So, you know, I drag the national forest below this layer and they disappear. Let's say that, you know, you want to be able to see a layer through another layer. You can do that if you pick this and open up the symbology. You pick the layer that's on top and open up the symbology pane. One up here in the contextual menu under feature layer, one of the tabs is labeled appearance, and if we click that, there is a transparency. So we can adjust the transparency of the layer on top, and that will allow us to see layers below. This swipe feature, if you turn the swipe on and you go to the top and click and drag, it allows you to swipe between two layers, two adjacent layers in your map. So you can go back and forth between the two. I'm still not happy with this symbology. Let's see, what other options do I have? Let's try this one. Yeah, we'll stop there. Okay. Okay, so the ArcGIS Online has a well, it's not, I guess it's not considered ArcGIS Online, but Esri has another online product that they call Story Maps, and it allows you to create like really nice visual presentation of your maps in sort of like a web page format. And let's see, what time is it? 1:34. So how about if we spend some time looking at that instead of starting some new material today? We'll start talking about some other stuff and some new stuff from chapter 4 on Wednesday. But let's spend the rest of the time looking at story maps because it's pretty impressive. All right. So in order to make a story map, Well, let's go to the web browser, and I'll show you. I think I have one that I made recently. It's been a while since I made a story map. All right, but let's go to my web browser. Here we go. And there it is. Search for story maps, ArcGIS story maps. And so I'm already logged in to ArcGIS Online. And so here's a story map that I made using some canned data that Esri made available. It's called Cougar Habitat Analysis. And you log in here, there's some information, and it tells you what the map is about, comparing potential habitat extent determined using different criteria, author, and then this is when I published it, or when I edited it last. So, and then you scroll down and there's one map showing, it's funny, there's no legend here, it's showing potential habitat for cougars in this area of Oregon in blue, using some set of criteria, and then here is in yellow cougar habitat using a different set of criteria. But with story maps, you can put in text, you can put in pictures, you can put in your maps. Okay. So in order to make a story map, you first have to have the map layers that you're going to present published on ArcGIS Online. So why don't we send the map that we just made to ArcGIS Online, and we will we'll try to make a story map from what we just did with the National Forest data. All right. You know, before we do that, we'll just leave that. But let's do one more thing here. If you go to labeling properties, one thing you can do is, sorry, not labeling properties. If you right-click here, you know, if I want to explore my map and I want to click on a national forest, I have things set up here so that you click on a national forest and the pop-up window shows you the total area in square miles. And if I click on one of these states, there's all kinds of garbage that we're not really interested in. So why don't we change that? Let's change the pop-up so that it's just showing what is relevant to this particular map. And the way you do that is right-click on the layer for which you want to change the pop-up, and then one of the options is configure pop-ups. And in this configure pop-ups window, if you click on, you see right here, it's showing 54 fields in the attribute table. It's showing all this stuff and a bunch of stuff that we aren't interested in. So I'm going to turn all that off, and all I want to show is the state name and, let's see, the area of the national forests, the area of the state, and then the ratio between those two things. Okay, so now if I click here, that's all you see. The state name, how much square miles the state is, how much square miles in parks, and the ratio between those two numbers. So these titles are not very descriptive. Square miles, you don't know that that's the square miles of the state, and this is the square miles of the national forest. So let's change that, and the way you change that is by changing the alias in the attribute table. So if you go to the attribute table for the states and click on right here in this little option button, one of the options is field view. And so in the field view, you can change the alias for these different things. So let's change that to state name. And down here, we'll call this state area, land area in square miles. And this is national forest land area in square miles. Okay, and then I'll click save, and that should save that. And now if I click up here, close this, we'll click on New Mexico. There, so that's now you get a pop-up that's much more readable. State land area, square miles, national forest land area, square miles, and then the ratio between those two numbers. All right. So I could refine this more, and there's a lot of decimal places here. You probably aren't adding much value. I could change the display format, but that's pretty good for now. All right. So I got these two layers, and let's send them to ArcGIS Online. But let's send them just layer at a time. So I'm going to share this layer as a web layer. Instead of going up here to the share tab and doing create a web map, I don't really want to create a web map. I just want these layers to be available for me to use in ArcGIS Online. So let's do, well, I've changed my mind because I have these two layers. If I create a web map from this map, it's going to export the layers as well. So the layers will be available for me to use on ArcGIS Online. They'll be shared, they'll be hosted. And ultimately I want to show a map of my work. So just save a step, and let's just export a web map to ArcGIS Online. So let's do this and see if we get any errors. Web map, we'll call it Our National Forests, and this is national forests and the fraction of each state that is land within national forests. Tags, national forests, whatever, good enough. Okay, exploratory. We don't want it to be editable, but in the future we might. And let's just put this in my default folder and make it viewable by everyone in the whole world. Just click analyze and see if we get any mistakes. So we're getting that same thing where it says layer does not have a feature template set. So you remember how to fix that? You go to Edit tab, Features, and click this button here. And I can't remember which layer it was, so I'll just do Create All. Okay, right click on Map, Create All Templates, and then that should be sufficient. And close that. So let's analyze again and see if we got rid of that error. Good. Okay. Share. So it's queuing up, and this might take a little while because there's a lot of data here on my map. All right. So while that's running, did anybody hear the big news? I wonder if it's on Shepherd's website yet. Hold on. I'm gonna look. Shepherd.edu. It's not there yet. I guess they haven't made a press release yet. I just found out Friday. publishing individual web layers, so it's still working. You sit back, relax, let the GIS do its thing. It's still working. You know, so when you guys do your first practicum, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, the idea here is that you guys come to the lab during one of those 2-hour blocks of time to do your practicum, and so you know I've posted the activity ahead of time, so you know it's not a mystery what you're asked to do, and I fully expect you guys to do it ahead of time. But the idea is you come in the lab on that day, 2 weeks from today, and starting from scratch, you complete the task. You complete the lab practicum. So it becomes a performance assessment. I'm seeing if you can perform this task that I've laid before you in the amount of time that I gave you. And part of this will be to create a PDF of your map to share with me using a layout. And the other part is to publish your map to ArcGIS Online, so then you can share me a link. So Aaron wants to know what the news is. I don't know, it's kind of big news. Kind of want to see if it filters out into the wider world. I'll tell you. So last year I was nominated. So let me frame this a little different. So there's an organization, a foundation in West Virginia that every year nominates people for West Virginia Professor of the Year. And last year I was nominated by Shepherd, and then the foundation picked me as one of the 5 finalists in the state, and we interviewed, and we went down to Charleston and interviewed, and then COVID happened. We were supposed to find out in April who the West Virginia Professor of the Year was. And COVID happened, so we didn't have this banquet when the big reveal was supposed to happen. And you know, months have gone by, 5 months, and I keep thinking, well, when are they going to tell us? Are they just going to skip this year? When are they going to tell us? So I get a letter in the mail on Friday, and I was like, oh no, it's from them. They're, you know, I got a letter. Letters are never good news. Letters are never good news. But I was like, my wife said, you gotta open it. So I was like, all right, I'll open it. So I open it up and I read halfway down the page, and then, here it is. See if you can see that. Right there. We wish to announce that the 2019 Professor of the Year is Dr. Jeffrey R. Groff, Associate Professor at Shepherd University. So that's my big news. I am West Virginia's Professor of the Year. Almost a year after I was nominated because of stupid COVID. But it's pretty it's pretty amazing. So you guys are stuck with me, and this is such a weird time to teach, but I'm doing the best I can. Thank you guys. Thanks for the congrats. I lost you there for a second. I don't know what happened. Okay, so my map's done. Successfully shared map. All right, so let's go to ArcGIS Online and take a look and see if it's there. Here we go. All right, ArcGIS Online, and I'll sign in. Why is there? It's weird. Okay. There we go. Gotta log myself in. Oh shoot. It helps if I remember my password and my username. Alright, I think I remember it. Come on. Okay, there we go. So my go to content. The map I just posted should be there. There it is, our national forest. And let's open it up in the map viewer. And there it is. Well, there's part of it. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's just taking a while to load. It's a big data set with a lot of detail. But you'll notice that like even the parameters that I wanted for my pop-up windows have stuck from ArcGIS Pro to when I exported here. It's showing the way I wanted it to show. And I wonder if let's take a look at the attribute table. You know, just the data that is showing up in my pop-up window is shown in the attribute table here. But you'll see that you know that's really helpful, right? There was a lot of extra stuff. I could call it garbage. It's not really garbage. It's data, but it's data we didn't need for this particular map. So by formatting my pop-ups, I restrict what's being viewed here to the things that I'm interested in for this map. All right, so let's go back to story maps, and let's see if we can if I can show you how to do this. Okay, so you log into story maps using your same credentials, and you know it'd be interesting. I can make story maps, and I think you can too. We have slightly different permissions in ArcGIS Online, so maybe you know you try this and see if it works. Every year I have, well, not every year, the last few years I've had some students who said, you know what I want to do, Dr. Groff, for my capstone? I want to, you know, I'm doing a GIS project, and in addition to making a poster, instead of making a PowerPoint presentation for my presentation, my capstone, I want to make a story map. And I say, yeah, do that. I'd love to see if we can do this. And then the students end up not doing that. So, but as far as I'm concerned, you know, if I'm teaching capstone in the spring, if there's a student who's doing a GIS project, and you know, I have you guys do a poster presentation, an oral presentation, which got skunked in the spring because of COVID, but hopefully we can do it this spring, and poster, oral, and paper presentation. And the oral presentation is PowerPoint based. But if you want to make your oral presentation story map based, that would be freaking awesome. Okay? I think we should try it. Anyways, let's come back here. And so I'll show you we'll start from scratch here. Yeah, I think there's nope. I don't want to preview it yet. Let's see. So design, you got different design styles, side by side, full, minimal. We'll do that. And you got different themes. Oh, look, browse themes. You got all kinds of, well, it's kind of lame. Let's see. Let's try Mesa theme. All right. And you can add a cover image or video like I did of a cougar in the other one. But then, you know, in here you start, you know, my national forest story. I don't know. And then here it is. It's like national forests are, you know, how does the total area of our national forests compare as to the land area of states? This is really poor, but you know, you get the idea. And then you scroll down here, and then you know you can tell your story. What does that mean? Well, you can add buttons. Buttons can be links to outside resources. You can add slideshows, which are, a lot of images. You can even add swipe feature, just like you can in ArcGIS Pro, like it did earlier. You can swipe between two maps. And that's right, James. I did get that, but I got to pay taxes on that, so it's a little less than that. And then here, map. Click the map, and so I'll pick my national park map, and you can make some edits. You can edit the way things appear, but let's just center things, maybe change the scale a little bit. Well, I'm trying, and we'll just do that's interesting. Turn that on. Okay. And okay, so I'll have everything on. I can turn off layers and stuff, but let's just place the map. And it places it in the story. And then, I can add other features. So maybe I want to add some text. Blah, blah, blah. And then I want to add some audio. Maybe there's an audio file, or embed a video of you on YouTube. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. And then you publish it. And I won't publish this right now, but you can publish it to the world. And then what you have in the end is a URL, a web address that you can share, and then anybody with that URL and anywhere in the world can go and see your map and also see the story. So what's the advantage of this? So, I mean, you can share web maps on ArcGIS Online too. The advantage here is you can add context. You can add text, you can add pictures, you can add all kinds of stuff, which turns a map into a presentation, a story. I tell my students in capstone, I'm like, what's the point of you, presenting your research? What's the goal? It's to tell a story. Science is telling stories with data. That's all it is. And then like the people who are good at telling stories, they're good at communicating science too. Anyway, that's enough for today. So we will reconvene on Wednesday. Tomorrow, Hannah will be opening the lab at 1 p.m. between 1 and 3. So if you want to get in there to practice your practicum or do anything, the lab will be open. I won't be on campus tomorrow at that time, but I'll see you on Wednesday, and then I'll see you on Thursday. So Thursday, we're going to start lesson 4, which has like 7 parts in the project workbook. And you won't finish. We'll spend more time on it in the future, but we'll get started on it on Thursday. All right, so have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you later.